All right. Hello, everyone. This is Ayush. Welcome to the Twenties Show. Contrary to what the name sounds, we are not actually talking about any of the 20s decades, even though glorious they may be. We're actually talking about our 20s, times in our lives which are the most glorious, most amazing times when our bodies are at their peak, and really also a lot of turbulent times. So the intention behind this particular podcast was that a lot of questions, a lot of times in our daily life, our interactions are extremely superficial, and we never end up talking about what troubles us or what challenges we are facing day to day and what insights we have actually got through our journey. And this medium is our small effort to sort of capture that information and talk more about these some of these challenges and questions. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome my friend Mohit, who's here with me, and we're going to start talking some of these questions which I just mentioned. Welcome, Mohit.
I'm glad to be here. You put it down straight really well. We are here to talk about and give voice to the confusions, the fears, the hopes, and the ecstasies of real 20 somethings today. This little podcast
Right.
is all about your thoughts, and it's just in our voice. Without further ado and beating around the bush,
Mm-hmm.
you want to jump into today's topic, Ayush?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the theme which we have sort of identified for our today's talk is looking back at our undergrad life. We're both about 25, 26, and it's been more than 2 years, 3 years since we finished our. I wished that you could have learned this before graduating college.
Uh, I think looking back, it is always easier to figure out the things you would have wanted to learn in college. A couple of things I realized were how inadequate I was prepared to face the real world. The college experience is all about giving you a comfortable cozy environment where you're exposed to hard technical skills all the time. Now, 80% of my time in college was spent on uh, gaining these hard technical skills. Well, what I realized is once I headed back into jobs, I would be using these 80% of skills that I had only 20% of the time. Now, the skills I used all the time were very contrary. They required me to communicate with my stakeholders and
Yeah.
create connections, real connections that will help me grow,
hmm
and all of these. So I think my college education did not give me that background so well.
Yeah. Yeah, I sort of agree with you in that when I came out of college and I went into my job and started living a life, I realized that I was really woefully prepared to take decisions, and did a big gap in my skills, life skills, because I realized that when I was in college, all my decisions were really taken by a bigger structure, a framework in which I was a part of. So basically, we have our exams, we pass them, we go home, we come
Hmm.
back, we pass on, we um, go for placements and everything. So everything is sort of decided for us, right? But when we go into the real world, yeah. And when we go in the real world every single day, and I think I'm woefully underprepared at taking those decisions.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, everything is so very structured, right?
Yeah.
I absolutely resonate with you. You're it's almost as if you're left out in the open,
Yeah.
and there are these hundreds of options out there,
Hmm.
and you have limited time, energy, and resource,
Hmm.
and you got to allocate these things, figure out your priorities, and move ahead in life. That's
hmm
actually what real life is all about.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that really hit me, and
hmm
it hit me so hard, was
hmm
now in college you have absolutely
hmm
no money. You are fed by your parents, they give you a little bit of pocket money to spend. The the thing that hit me was when you start earning, we have we have very little clue on how to handle our personal finances.
Yeah. True.
I mean, look at us, we have been earning for 4 years and we hardly have anything to show for it.
Yeah.
Outside in the real world, there are just so many options whether I
Mm-hmm.
should invest my money in stocks, bonds, fixed deposits, mutual funds, what is better, what is not. As you say, making decisions in the real life context, right? These things should have been, I mean how hard is it to teach a couple of undergrads what options exist out there to improve their money and make the right decisions? I don't think it shouldn't be that hard enough, man.
Yeah. No, I agree that there are like diverse life skills we could definitely have had, could make do with if we were taught those in the undergrad life. Great. Um. Right.
Right. I think it naturally ties down to what we did in college must have been because we were preconditioned to believe in a certain set of things. We were given advice that made sense then.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this,
Yeah.
Ayush.
Yeah.
What is the worst piece of advice which seemed well meaning at that time did you receive when you were in college?
Okay. So you're saying that when I got into college, what is the absolutely worst piece of advice I was given, which I actually thought was pretty good at the time?
Weren't you given such advice by someone?
Okay, all right. So here's my biggest. I think for me, um, when I went into college, and within the first year, I had a lot of discussions with seniors and a lot of discussion with other people um, outside of college as well. And often I was given a piece of advice that how my what I could do to enhance my resume, or what I should do which could look good on my resume. And I thought that was
Hmm.
good because I realized that if I could at that time show that I was doing something interesting, or I was actually um, aligning myself towards a particular career, it would help me at the time of placements. So for example, for somebody who would want to go into finance, it would make sense to sort of join the Wall Street Club or join one of the economics club, show a lot of activity there,
Yeah.
maybe do a
Yep.
lot of project work. So I thought it made a lot of sense to sort of do things which are aligned with what career you want to be in. But looking back, I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was the worst advice ever, and here's why. I think college was a time where, as we were earlier discussing, everything is taken care of. Our decisions really have no implications within the framework, right? Within the structure of the college itself.
Yes.
So I think it's a great
Yes.
opportunity to learn about yourself, where you can take decisions which will not have tremendous implications. So hypothetically, if you even if you want to join finance, when you come to college and you realize that you sort of are interested in theater, I think you should go ahead and take that up, even though it has absolutely no overlap with finance. And you know, I think it sort of for me, I thought that just having that freedom to do anything that I could ever do under the sun was special. And that advice that you should try to do things only which are streamlined with your long-term career sort of restricted that freedom. And I think also in a very, very harmful way curbed the entire process of self-discovery which an individual can have inside a college. What do you think?
I so much agree with you. Uh, and my story is kind of similar. All of these times
Mm-hmm.
when I was entering college, all I was told was to
Mm-hmm.
focus on my studies and build up my resume
Mm-hmm.
and target a particular set of industries. And
Yeah.
you're very young, right? You don't have this inner sense of discovery about you.
Yeah.
You don't realize that college is a place for self discovery, and all I focused on was getting good grades,
Mm-hmm.
which would lead to a good job and a stable life. That and when that is all set up, I would have lots of time to pursue other hobbies. What I failed to realize,
Mm-hmm.
and looking back,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things have turned out to be categorically false. Good grades does not mean you are learning anything.
Mm-hmm.
A good grades does not lead you to a good job. The first job that I've ever gotten was because
Yeah.
I was an intern at that place, and I I could communicate well, better than most of my peers.
Yeah, you sort of.
And the stable life myth, it is just that. It is just that. It is just a myth. There is no concept in today's
Hmm.
world that a corporate job will give you a stable, relaxed life. That was for the thing of the 19th and 20th century. Jobs are not stable, and you cannot pull out time to learn a new hobby when you get into a job. I felt the time, as you have always said, it was a time for us to self explore and go out and do different things. But all I did was go in and build up my resume. That was the worst piece of advice I've ever gotten.
All right. So then, having said that, let's come to this then. What was the best piece of advice you were given during your undergrad days, but you thought was bullshit at the time, which you thought is, that is all hogwash, but it
Uh-huh.
actually was pretty good advice.
Ah, it's funny how it turns out. Now, I don't think the piece of advice, the one that I ignored, was completely bullshit. I think it made sense, but there are a few reasons why I did not do it. Now, let me go into that a little bit.
Uh huh.
Now, you already knew my mentality, how I was focused on grades, and I did not try to go out and make a lot of social connections. I did not play a lot of
Mm-hmm.
games. Now, if you happen to remember, there was this very fond professor of ours who gave this advice to the entire class. He said, "You must play one new game every semester, and you must develop one new hobby each semester."
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
Now, looking back, I don't think it was bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
but there was this deep sense of inertia and fear that I would completely suck at a new hobby. I would completely suck at a new sport. And this fear of sucking became deep ingrained in me. Uh, I think that is one of the primary reasons why I ignored that very crucial piece of advice. Looking back, I feel it is so crucial because having a new hobby, exploring yourself beyond the domains you already know about, would lead you to develop more experiences, have more new connections. Even if I had done half of that, I would have infinitely many more girlfriends with me today.
So basically, you're saying that the advice you were given was that you should try out new things,
Yeah,
but you ended up ignoring it in favor of doing things which were more streamlined with what you were already doing.
absolutely. What do you feel? What was your best piece of advice that you ignored?
It may not actually answer the question, but here's what I feel about this question. So we were in college, like just to remind our viewers and like just for their information, we our attendance was not
Uh
compulsory.
huh.
Classes were not compulsory. If we wanted, we could not go to a single class at all throughout the semester and still just turn out for the exams and be okay
Hmm.
with that. There was no regulation on the number of teacher, and I ended up attending all of the classes I was supposed to go to. And here's what I actually think I should have done.
Okay.
I There are two things to this. One is that I probably would have learned a lot more in some classes if I would have stayed back in my room and read up a lot of books. I think that's how Elon Musk learned about rocket science. So well, why not? And the second thing I think is that there was absolutely I missed out on attending a lot of classes which were not in my domain. Really go out of my way to disrupt the entire system. I never ended up doing anything outside my own, like attending classes which were not already scheduled in my timetable. I would never just turn up for some random class just because it would interest
Uh
me.
huh.
And similarly, on the other end of the spectrum, I would never miss a class that was not. Um,
Sorry, sorry. Did you know of people who would go out of the system and do this thing?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh huh.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, so just sort of, yeah, circling back to our original question, I think for me, um, at that time I thought that attending classes which were already there in my timetable was the best thing to do, while everybody else used to say that you should only attend things which actually are going to create any value. And I think if I could
Hmm.
do that
Yeah.
again, I would end up skipping up a lot of classes and attend a lot more, which may or may not actually add up to my overall life personality and skills. it's an exploratory phase, right? Your college is probably one of the most sort of like a sandbox where you can really do anything which you want to do, of course, without overturning the entire sandbox and disrupting your life. You have a lot of opportunity to explore yourself and learn a lot of different things. So I think from both of us, our sort of insight looking back at our undergrad life would be to explore more and get outside your comfort zone, do things which probably you may not be doing if it may not be assigned to you, but you definitely want to do it. You should go ahead and do it. Would you like to add anything else on that, Mohit?
I think looking back, uh, if this is the one thing that could be passed on to the people who are listening to this show, this is it. Go on, follow your interest, do
Great.
the things that expand your interest, expand your personality, rather than, as you say, Ayush, trying to stick to the timetable and doing things for the sake of it.
Yeah.
What do you say?
I think it's also important to say that what we are trying to come up with is not a radically different way of doing things in college. I mean, grades are probably not the most important thing, but definitely something which you should take care of. So taking those courses and getting um, passing marks and everything is important. But that's a different discussion.
So this is it. We're signing off from the first podcast of the Twenties Show. This is me, Mohit,
All right, signing off.
and that's Ayush.
Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Bye.
Bye bye. See you next time.